Hi, welcome to problem number 1 of lesson 6. We're going to do things a little bit differently on this problem because I want to make sure you're comfortable with the concept of a relation and a function. So a relation is basically a set of ordered pairs where there's an input and an output. So at the top here, I'm going to say typically we think of ordered pairs with x and y, although it could be with other variables. The input is the x coordinate. So I'm going to put input here. And the y gives us the output. And so when we think of that, we also want to keep in mind that the input is the set of all the x values, or the inputs are the set of all x values, which makes up our domain. And our range is the set of all the outputs or the y values. So that's our range. The other thing I want you to keep in mind is that since we are putting something into a function, the input, the y value depends on the x value that's put into the function. And you'll see this more as you go through this lesson if you haven't already learned this. But I want to make sure you know that the y depends on x. Okay, and again, it could be other variables other than x and y, but typically when we work with functions, we're thinking of a coordinate plane where we have x and y. Okay, now we're ready for these 4 multiple choice questions. Okay, a relation pairs inputs with outputs. Okay, we know that that's true. Every x is paired with a y. But a function is a specific type of relation in which each input has more than one output. Well, that's just not true. That's false because each input, x, can only lead to one output. So x can't repeat. So A is false. B, the domain of a function is the set of all inputs and the range is the set of all outputs. True based on what we just discussed. C, in a function represented by ordered pairs, the x values are the inputs, the independent values, and the y values are the outputs, the dependent value, or dependent variable, I should say, which is true because the dependent variable is y, the independent is x. Okay. D, a relation is a function if a vertical line can be drawn to intersect its graph at more than one point. That's false. You will see that more later in this this lesson. I think it's problem number 4, where you will talk about looking at a graph and seeing if a specific graph is actually a function. So please look at problem number 4 if you want more details on this. But basically, if there is a vertical line that touches the graph more than once, let's just say that our graph looks something like this. Okay, and if you think about it, let's kind of take a value, let's just take another color here. How about that? We'll kind of take this color. Okay, and what we're going to see is that this vertical line touches that graph in 2 places. So that means that the x value repeats. So if the x value repeats, it is not a function. And that's why a vertical line cannot intersect the graph at more than one point. That's basically saying x repeats. Okay, great job. See you next time.